Welcome to SBS News in Easy English. My name is Marcus. The Maroogapan family has won its case in the Federal Circuit Court, with it ruling Immigration Minister Alex Hawke's decision to prevent 3 members of the family from applying for further bridging visas ruled procedurally unfair. The family's lawyer, Karina Ford, says the win means any decision to revoke Nades, Priya and 6-year-old Gupika's bridging visas will need to be reconsidered. But the ruling doesn't apply to 4-year-old Tanika, as she currently has a brief of her case before Mr. Hawke. Ms. Ford says she hopes the decision will put more pressure on the government to resolve the issue and grant the family visas so they can return to their hometown of Biloela in Queensland. The family's current visas are set to expire in September. Elsewhere, the New South Wales government is trying to reassure residents it will be safe for children to go back to school. Some parents are concerned about their children having rapid antigen tests twice a week. The Premier of the state, Dominic Perrottet, says that while he understands it's making parents anxious, it is the right approach.
This is all about instilling confidence in our parents, in our children. I know many are anxious, but we believe the plan that we have in place alongside the Victorian government is one that works, one that is ready. We've invested significantly in it, and we're in a position, unlike other jurisdictions around the country, that can actually apply these rapid antigen tests because we went out early and resourced them.
New South Wales recorded 24 further COVID-related deaths and 15,091 new cases on Monday. Meanwhile, Victorians are being urged to get a COVID-19 vaccine booster shot, as the state recorded 17 COVID-19 deaths and more than 11,000 new cases. The Premier, Daniel Andrews, says people should continue to come forward to get their booster shots.
Nothing's more important when it comes to protecting you, the people you love, and the people that we all count on, our nurses, our ambos and our doctors, the whole team across our health system. Nothing's more important for all of those reasons than getting a third dose.
Vulnerable members of Queensland's population are being urged to remain vigilant as the state nears the peak of its Omicron outbreak. Queensland is treating 878 people in hospital with the virus, and 50 of them are in intensive care. More than 10,000 new coronavirus cases were detected and 13 deaths were recorded in the latest reporting period. The state's Premier, Anastasia Palaszczuk, says the next couple of weeks will be critical.
My message is to the vulnerable members in our community, those elderly senior residents, about minimising your movements. And as I said, perfectly okay to go and do your shopping, perfectly okay to go and visit your family. But please avoid mixing in crowds just over the next couple of weeks till we get through this peak and we can get through all of this together.
The Red Cross has released its latest report on the fund established to support those impacted by the Black Summer bushfires. 34 people were killed in the bushfires in the summer of 2019 and 2020, which also burned through more than 18 million hectares and destroyed over 5,900 buildings, including 2,779 homes. Some $242 million was raised in the Red Cross Fund, and over 6,000 people have been supported with grants to pay for building repairs, emergency expenses and the cost of funerals. Red Cross National Recovery Coordinator Shona Witten says disasters have widespread effects.
We often have quite a cross-section of communities who experience impacts by disasters. But the additional support grant really shows that the people who are perhaps more vulnerable to begin with do tend to suffer more after disasters, and that was the intention of the additional support grant, which really was the focus of the end of our distribution of funds over the last 6 months.
And in sport, the Women's Asian Cup has suffered a setback, with hosts India kicked out of the tournament because of a COVID-19 outbreak. The women's team was unable to field a team for their Group A match against Taiwan because too many players had COVID-19. Regulations require coaches to name a minimum 13-player matchday squad for each game, and India's inability to do so caused Sunday's game to be cancelled and the Indian team's withdrawal from the competition. Thanks for listening to SBS News in Easy English. Welcome to SBS News in Easy English. My name is Marcus. Coronavirus restrictions in New South Wales have been extended for another month. The state recorded 29 COVID deaths and 18,512 new cases. Some 2,943 people are in New South Wales hospitals with the virus, including 182 in intensive care. The state's Premier, Dominic Perrottet, says extending restrictions will allow elective surgeries to resume in mid-February, the return to school to go smoothly, and for more people to get their booster shot. He says the extension of these restrictions is appropriate.
Those restrictions that will be rolling over for this period include density limits of 2 square metres, wearing face masks indoors, no singing and dancing in hospitality venues. These measures are proportionate, but particularly taking a cautious approach as we move through and really focus on getting kids back in the classroom on the first day of school this year in a safe way, and as well making sure that we get that non-urgent elective surgery back.
Victoria is launching a campaign to assist people at home with mild COVID-19 symptoms. Part of the campaign will remind people that 000 calls are for emergencies, not for mild symptoms. Victoria reported 29 additional COVID deaths, 14,836 new cases, and 1,057 people in hospital. 119 of them are in intensive care. Health Minister Martin Foley says it is hoped the campaign will relieve the pressure on emergency services and hospitals.
The program is called the Get the Right Help for Your Recovery campaign, and it will support people experiencing mild symptoms by providing them the support and education they need on measures such as how to rest, how to keep up hydration, and how to deal with pain relief so that they can feel confident and secure in managing their pathway to recovery at home.
Queensland has recorded 11 COVID deaths and 9,546 new cases. There are 928 people in hospital with the virus, which is up from 878 yesterday. Speaking in Townsville, the state's Chief Health Officer, Dr. John Gerard, says the state is heading toward its peak.
And that does remind us that we're very much part of a global phenomenon. Pretty well the whole world is seeing this wave of Omicron almost simultaneously, give or take a few weeks, from starting in South Africa, London, etc. Around the world. We're all experiencing the same thing.
A COVID-19 outbreak has been recorded among the crew of HMAS Adelaide. Australia's largest warship departed Brisbane for Tonga on Friday to deliver humanitarian aid following a devastating volcanic eruption and subsequent tsunami. The Pacific Island nation has remained virtually virus-free throughout the course of the pandemic. Defence Minister Peter Dutton says that 23 cases have been detected thus far on the warship, but the federal government is working with Tongan authorities to keep the boat at sea and ensure there is no threat to those on the land. Elsewhere, New South Wales police have confirmed that 9-year-old girl Charlize Mutton, who went missing in the Blue Mountains, died after being shot. Officials believe she was killed at the Mount Wilson property where she was staying. Homicide Squad Commander Danny Doherty says the circumstances surrounding her death are unimaginable.
The cause of death has also been established, and I can now disclose that the cause of death, Charlize, was that she suffered a fatal gunshot wound, and that's how she died. So we're disclosing this for investigative reasons, but also to clear up any ambiguity, to make sure that we have some clarity to the investigation and any other thoughts that this may not be anything but what it is, and this is the murder of a 9-year-old girl.
Overseas now, and the head of the United Nations has condemned the military coup in Burkina Faso. Over a dozen soldiers have appeared on state television declaring that a military junta now controls the West African nation. They detained the country's democratically elected president following a day of gun battles in the capital. The United Secretary-General Antonio Guterres' spokesman, Stefan Dujarric, says it is deeply concerning.
He's particularly worried about the whereabouts and safety of President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore, as well as the worsening security situation following the coup carried out on January 23rd by sections of the armed forces. The Secretary-General strongly condemns any attempted takeover of government by the force of arms. He calls on the coup leaders to lay down their arms and to ensure the protection of the physical integrity of the president and of the institutions of Burkina Faso.
Australia's Foreign Minister Maurice Payne says the federal government is not withdrawing support for Ukraine's sovereignty as Australians are being urged to leave Kiev over the increasing risk of a Russian invasion. About 1,400 Australians are in Ukraine and have been advised to depart the country by commercial flights. The United States, the United Kingdom and Germany are also advising their citizens in the country to leave Ukraine. Thank you for listening to SBS News in Easy English.